The number one thing that I can tell you, young guys and girls listening out there, is the one thing that really helps you in life is your attitude. And only you control that. Bad things are going to happen to you. No question about it. They have already and they will continue to happen. It's how do you react to those things that really make a big difference, right? So if you have the right attitude, you're curious, you go the extra mile, I am giving you today a 100% guarantee that you're going to be very successful.
Manny Medina is a Cuban American entrepreneur who fled Cuba as a teenager, grew up poor in Miami, and spent decades turning big, risky infrastructure ideas into hugely valuable businesses. Today, he's a major investor and community builder, helping make Miami a global tech hotspot and opening doors for the next generation of entrepreneurs, especially from Latin America and immigrant backgrounds. Welcome to How I Started, the podcast where we share the real stories behind remarkable entrepreneurs and the companies they've built. I'm Connor Boyack, your host and president of the Children's Entrepreneur Market, where we help kids ages 5 to 17 launch their very first business. In each episode, we'll explore how great ideas grow into lasting success, what lessons shape those journeys, and how mentorship builds the next generation of entrepreneurs. Whether you're just starting out, scaling up, or looking to inspire others, you're in the right place. Let's explore the stories that prove every great venture begins with a single step. Manny, thanks for joining us on How I Started.
Thank you, Connor. What a pleasure to be here. Congrats on an amazing program.
Well, thank you. And you have a really fun story that I want to get into. Before we started recording, you mentioned that you have some grandkids that are the ages of most of our listeners. And so I want to imagine as if you were sharing your early days with your grandkids. Let's go to, from what I've learned of your story, coming from Cuba, fleeing the Castro regime with your family. But let's talk about your earliest experience with business, with entrepreneurship, making money. What was the earliest experience you recall where you realized, you wanted, successful, you wanted to try your hand at entrepreneurship? What was that like? How old were you? And what did you learn?
So my first experience with entrepreneurship, I arrived in this country. I was 13 years old. I was lucky that my mother put me and my sister on a boat with her and brought us to the United States, which is the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I didn't speak English, but I've always been, kind of a little bit tenacious. We were very poor. My dad was a cab driver. My mom was a hotel maid. And I really, really wanted to make some money. So my first entrepreneurial journey was delivering papers. I was delivering the Miami Herald, getting up at 4:30 in the morning and delivering papers 7 days a week with a big route that continued to expand. And that was, it was really very good for me because no different than you're doing with your audience. I was working hard and obviously doing things that were really good for me. And it was dependent on me, how successful I was. The more that in those times, you would actually go and collect house to house. The friendlier that I was with the people, the more that I smiled, I learned, the bigger a tip that I will get. So that early stage taught me a lot that I think your kids and your members can benefit from, because it's attitude and personality. It goes a long way in making you successful.
Absolutely. And why did you want to earn money? Was that just because, you saw your parents working hard to provide, you're an immigrant in a new country? Was it that you saw other people having certain luxuries or things that you wanted? What was the motivating factor that led you to want to go get that hardworking 4 a.m. job?
I think it's all of the above. I mean, I really like I said, being as poor as we were is not fun. So I basically wanted to make money. That was really my number one priority. Then it's funny enough. So I lived in a neighborhood in Miami that it's very poor, but my station where I delivered papers, was about 2-3 miles away. And the houses where I delivered paper were very nice houses. And I would look at how all those kids live and, versus how I live. So I think it's a little bit of all of the above, right? I really understood very early on that being poor is not a good thing. And I understood that for me personally, being an entrepreneur was something that I really, really enjoyed, because again, it depended on me and my own effort.
Manny, what I appreciate about that story you share is that a lot of people, if they were to read your bio and see all the business you've built and the $1 billion exit that you had when you sold to Verizon, and your investment firm right now and everything that you're doing, especially for kids, I find that that can be very intimidating for them to look at someone who's extremely successful and try to wonder for themselves, how could I ever do that? My gosh, that looks so complicated. That looks so crazy. I don't know anything about that. How could I ever do that? And yet here you were, you started, selling papers, just the very, very basics. And so fast forward, like, how did those early lessons help you when later in life you start building these businesses? How did your early life kind of contribute to that journey that you went on to start slowly building what you did?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's really funny, Connor, because the same principles apply all throughout, right? I mean, just the numbers change, the challenges change, but the principles are the same. I find myself that from the very beginning, when I was delivering papers, it wasn't just a job to deliver papers. I got to know the people. I got to know their backgrounds. I became friends with a lot of them. I basically went the extra mile to just say, okay, I have to do this job, right? So I know I have to do this job because I need to make money. And at the same time, so why don't I optimize? This is thanks to my mother, all her advice. And so I did. So I began in every journey that I've had in my life. What the number one thing that has always helped me, and many things have helped me, is curiosity. So basically, if you're curious and you can do a job, you can go to 9 to 5, but if you're curious, you will see how much more you get out of any opportunity. So I will learn. In the case of the newspapers, I got to know all of them. I actually got to know then the management of the Miami Herald. I came out and said, I want to learn about the newspaper business. How does this actually work? I mean, what does it cost to print? And so I began just curiosity. I wanted to absorb what I was the one delivering it, but I was delivering it to a consumer, and it was being produced by a company. So I began to learn all these things, not because I wanted to be in the newspaper business, just out of curiosity. And that curiosity is something that has stayed with me my entire life, even to today. When I began learning, when Matt said, do the podcast with Connor, it's learning about how do I optimize this time with you and your kids? And if I can touch any of them, I've done my job for the day. Does that make sense?
I love that. And, you have employed many people being a business owner. So I'm curious about this, Manny. One thing that we've talked to several of our guests about is how with our program, sometimes parents fall into the trap of thinking that our approach is that every child should be an entrepreneur, a business owner in their own right as an adult. And that's not what we're doing. Some percentage of them absolutely will be. Our belief is that everyone can think and act entrepreneurially, no matter whether they're a business owner or if they're an employee. So what I'd love to know from you as an employer, where you've hired a lot of people, is what does that curiosity look like from the employer's perspective? You just gave it to us from your perspective about how you kind of moved up the ranks and you were able to achieve more success. But when you see an employee or a job applicant or someone demonstrate curiosity, how does that make you as the employer want to, support them, promote them, reward them, help them? What is that like from the employer's perspective if you see that young person who's hungry and curious?
Well, look, I start with the fact that, you're 100% right, Connor. You don't need to own your own business to be an entrepreneur, right? You can be an entrepreneur inside the largest company in the world, right? And basically, and I see it. I've currently employ a lot of people, but I've employed thousands of people, and you can see it. When that employee they have a job, whatever the job may be, engineering, accounting, whatever, and they just kind of surface because of their own curiosity. You give them a job to do, and yes, you can do the job well, and you're getting paid. But then if you go the extra mile and you understand how to take that given challenge and improve on it, is something that makes you as the employer significantly more grateful. And you see these employees rise significantly higher because they become a lot more valuable to the enterprise. And then also they become kind of go-to people. I think I'm sure all your listeners have go-to friends that they know they can rely on, and become one of those go-to people. If you become one of those go-to people that people are going to rely on you, and there's certain disciplines that you have to do with that. Basically, you have curiosity to begin with, but you also are reliable. You show up on time. You do things that are really important. You have a positive attitude. I'm telling you, the number one thing that I can tell you, young guys and girls listening out there, is the one thing that really helps you in life is your attitude. And only you control that. Bad things are going to happen to you. No question about it. They have already have, and will continue to happen. It's how do you react to those things that really make a big difference, right? So if you have the right attitude, you're curious, you go the extra mile, I am giving you today a 100% guarantee that you're going to be very successful.
I love that. Attitude is a great word. I want to focus for my next question on another word that starts with A. This one is adaptability. So your story, insofar as I know it, and feel free to fill in any details that I miss. Here you started, in newspapers, and then, you go get an education to learn accounting. You start your own consulting practice. So now you're kind of a business owner. You start building real estate and infrastructure. Then you move into tech and telecom and internet. Now you have the Medina Capital investment firm where you're investing in all kinds of things. So talk to me about adaptability, right? Attitude is important, but you've kind of, I won't say bounced around, but you had your hands in a lot of different things. Things shift. You were working at one company, sold that company. Now you're doing something else. So as the young people listening to this interview, they're at a stage in their life where they're going to be making a lot of decisions and adaptations. What is being adaptable and or even flexible? How has that looked in your business, and why do you think that might be important?
It's critically important because at that age, when I arrived here at 13 years old, like you said, if you would have said to me, plan, what is your life going to be like? And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to plan to do this and that and that. And it never, on the contrary, life brings you opportunity, it brings you disappointments, and then you need to react. Your attitude needs to be, I'm going to go. And that's what happened in my entire career. Things have gone well, things have gone bad. I've had significant failures, I've had significant successes. And then it's not we invest a lot today in early stage enterprises, right? And when I see an entrepreneur that continues to tout the fact that they've never made a mistake, I know they're either lying or they're not for me. Because I like people that can pivot. I like people that says, okay, I started, particularly engineers, they're very stubborn. They want to go one way. And I keep telling them, listen, you cannot, the definition of insanity, you cannot keep doing the same thing and expect different results. So you're going to get the same results unless you pivot, unless you change, unless you adapt to the new rules. I mean, I think for this young crowd, they were all born post the internet. But there's a point where you need to adapt or you die, basically. And I think that's the key. And that, by the way, also really stems from curiosity. Why? Because I am an avid reader. I mean, I cannot. I have so much worthless information in my head. I don't even know how it fits in there because I read everything. I love to read and I like to see where the puck is going, right? And I think that helps you adapt because you see where the trend is going, and then you say, if I stay this old way, it's just no way I'm going to do it. So then I adapt, and then so the curiosity. And I've always loved technology, and I was fortunate that I've been lived around the world and spent all the time in the Middle East. And when I was there by myself, I needed to fend for myself. So then it's adapt, right? I need to adapt. I don't have an IT department to call. I have to do all these things myself. So adaptability is a very, very big number one on the top 5 of what's going to make you successful.
Let's connect this a little bit more for our younger audience, especially with your background in tech and early stage companies. So no doubt you've had exposure to various AI companies or companies that are using AI to do whatever they're trying to build and create. Now, many young people that I've talked to are at once excited about AI and intrigued by it, and also feeling quite nervous about what does the economy look like 10 or 20 or 50 years from now? How can I, as a teenager, prepare? What should I do? What industry should I go into? The jobs that exist today might not exist by the time I'm in the job market. So let me frame the question this way, Manny, and feel free to take it in whatever direction you want. What I'm curious about is, how do you think that entrepreneurship, or we might say, curiosity, value creation, problem solving, which is really the foundation of entrepreneurship, how do you think that entrepreneurship could help the young people listening adapt and be best prepared for a changing future?
Look, let me give you some good news. The reason I'm such a big believer in technology is if you go through history, every problem that we've ever had has been resolved through innovation. I mean, you guys are obviously, but when I was young, we were going to run out of oil, basically. And, all of a sudden, yes, and, Saudi Arabia was going to own us. Then later on, we were going to be too many people. And, we didn't have enough food to feed ourselves. Now the problem is we don't have enough people because we were so efficient in growing food. People used to spend 80-90% of their day just to feed themselves. Today, they spend 3-4% of their day just to feed themselves. So what I'm saying is technology always disrupts, but always resolves. If you go through history, when the horse and buggy, oh my God, this is going to be the end of employment because now the cars. The same thing with electricity. Every time there's been a technology shift, certain things happen. People are afraid of the future, but the reality is that it creates massive new opportunities. For example, the internet. There's no bigger disruption that we've had over the last 50 years than the internet. It disrupts. If as creative as I am, if you would have said to me the internet is going to have, I know it sounds weird for young kids, but the internet didn't exist forever. The changes that it made, the fears were immense, and look what it's done. It's created so many new opportunities, so many new areas that I would have never dreamed of. AI, I have never been more excited than I am today, Connor, because AI is really a tool. Now, it has negative repercussions, like any technology disruption. You're going to get out, and yes, there's some jobs that are going to disappear. So as a young person today, I think the most important thing is for you to learn where this technology is going. There's a new technology coming up pretty soon. For those of you who are a little bit more tech inclined, it's quantum computing. You may not have heard of it, but for you young guys, I'll put it in your radar. Begin learning about quantum, because that's coming up really, really quick. And this thing is, if you wait until things happen, then you're reactionary. If you try to stay ahead of the curve, you're going to be able to pivot into the direction that is going to be for your benefit. You will see all these job losses, which, and I assure you there will be many, are going to be replaced by businesses today that we don't even know what they are. And this has happened every time. If you go back 2,000 years, every time that there's been a technology shift like this, it's happened to be significantly better for. Now, there's, again, even today, the internet has negative repercussions. I think for your audience, I don't know whether it's a positive or a negative, but social media, is all done because of the internet. And I think social media has some negative repercussions for your audience as well. So it always is going to have negative, but the overwhelming tendency has always been resolving the major crises of the world.
So just as a reminder for us, Manny, we were talking about how AI unlocks all kinds of opportunities. So I'll now carry us back in. Manny, hearing you say that makes me think that your answer is going to be basically the same that it was before. Be curious, adapt, have a good attitude, while others around you might look at AI and have fear and doubt and doom and gloom. If you're still curious and willing to adapt, what I hear you saying is that the young people listening are still going to have abundant opportunities in the future.
They're going to have more opportunities in the future than ever. Basically, I mean, think about if you were being born in the early 1900s, what were your opportunities compared to you having been born in the 60s, or now you're being born in the 2000s? I mean, the opportunities are endless. Really, you're going to have so many opportunities if you continue that curiosity. Another small piece of advice that I always that it worked for me very well, and I like to instill, my curiosity got me to really thinking and dreaming, right? Don't be afraid of dreaming. Even though if you don't know where your path is, dream about what you want to be. I mean, I never knew how, but I always saw myself with money. I don't know how I was going to get there, but I dreamed. I began reading all these books. One of the things that I learned is that a lot of the people that curiosity, I had never flown an airplane in my entire life. And one of the people that the curiosity is traveling. Traveling gives you, everything happens, and you get so many different perspectives. So on my second year in college, I sold a car that I had fixed, and I ended up and bought a Eurail pass for 90 days in Europe. I had never flown an airplane, and I spent 3 months in a train in Europe. And that trip changed my life. I got to learn all these different cities and village and customs, and that really helped me, right? It basically nurtured me and to continue that curiosity. So I encourage all of you, and don't worry about the fact whether you have the money now or not. You will, basically. But just if you have that curiosity, you can start by reading about it. You can start by, and then experiencing yourself.
Manny, a lot of the young people listening dream of money as well, like you once did. And when they dream of money, many people tend to think, wow, one day I hope to be a millionaire, and then I'll retire and I'll never have to work again. You've been very successful. You've sold a company. You've done very well for yourself. And yet you're still in the game. You're still, doing stuff. You're still operating these businesses. What keeps you in the game? Why not go retire and, sit on the beach all day? What keeps you doing this?
The worst thing you could ever do is that, basically. I mean, when I sold my big company, I actually took time off, and the first thing that I realized is I'm never going to retire. I am blessed that I love what I do. I love curiosity. I actually today have a duty to pay it forward. So I spend a lot of my time helping. There's always so much to do today when it comes to AI and everything that we're doing with all these young startups. I mean, I spent 60% of my life dealing with early young entrepreneurs in startups, etc. For me, that drives me. And so I am fortunate. And for all of you, if you're going to succeed, you got to find things that you really like to do. Whether it's medicine, whether it's being a chef, whether it's wanting to be an astronaut. If you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to succeed, because people are going to realize I happen to love what I'm doing. And if I don't love what I'm doing, I'm going to go a different path. So retirement is way overrated. I mean, I love to fish, I love to do all this stuff, but if the moment that I wouldn't have my entire preoccupation of being able to, I've been blessed to just kind of use what I have to help other folks, then that will be a sad day.
Manny, I share your perspective on loving what you do. There's the traditional quote about if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, because every day is fun and new problems to solve and things to do. So I completely get it. It resonates with me, and that's what I experience, and I couldn't agree with you more. But thinking of the kids listening, maybe some of them are going to think, well, I also want to love what I do, but I don't know what that is. Like, how do I know? So I'm thinking of your story. You didn't love waking up at 4 a.m., I'm sure, to do papers. So what were you
on cold days?
So maybe the last question, and then we can wrap, is as you think about your grandkids, right? They're figuring it out too. They probably don't have their whole life charted. They'll have to pivot along the way. So what should young people think about? They want to love what they do, but it might take them time to figure that out. So how do they do that? How do they figure out and find something that they love?
Well, eventually, it really depends how you feel while you're doing it. So yeah, I didn't love getting up at 4 a.m, particularly on cold days. I didn't. But I think also it goes back. I'm sorry to sound like a broken record. If you go back to curiosity, whatever you're doing, there's another angle to it. There's something else happening that you can learn. And that path that you don't know what it is what takes you. And then you keep trying, right? Basically, I mean, when I began, I said, I don't really love accounting. I didn't want to be an accountant. And then I pivoted. And then I said, okay, what do I like? Well, I like, basically the investment side. So I began going that route. And then when I began seeing the internet, my God, I want to go do that. And then I tried it. Now, I know it sounds like, no, I did this. It all takes time. And you got to have patience. But if you're driven, and the worst thing that you could do in life, in my opinion, I mean, for me, it would be a sad day if somebody told me I have 24 hours to live. And I said, man, I've worked in the same job for all my life, and I was unhappy with the job. If I was happy with it, that doesn't matter. And that's really the worst. Do not be afraid of taking a chance. Even at your young, early age, you're doing this, like everything that you're learning right now in these kids markets and everything that you're doing is phenomenal. Try to learn more. Try to learn, why is your neighbor succeeding, you're not? Why is this product selling and this product is not selling? Why is my lemonade? Just be that curiosity, and then you will find your own path, right? Basically. And that's why I kept saying, and that's why I was telling you also about traveling. You learn so much by meeting all the kids from different countries, right? You learn so much the way that they're thinking that you never even dreamed about. I mean, you told me you were in Honduras. I'm telling you, I mean, Tegucigalpa is a totally different city than it is, Boston or New York or Miami. So you learn, and that kind of helps you mold your own path, right, basically. And that's, by the way, this is really exciting, right? I mean, if you had your path charted for you, it would be the most boring life that you ever have.
It's an adventure, right? I mean, that's really what it boils down to. It's an adventure.
Well, and something else that I always tell the kids also, it's an adventure, but it's not a rehearsal. I mean, what you're living today is part of it. You're going towards an end, right? So basically, it's not like, oh, I'm going to do all this because, now I'm going to take, all this. In other words, you really have to discipline yourself, understanding that I know it seems like from the age that you're in right now, life is going to last forever. I assure you that you should really and truly optimize it the most that you can, beginning now, right?
Great advice. Manny Medina, you've been very generous with your time. Lots of great ideas that I hope all the kids listening will go apply, re-listen to this, re-watch it, and soak that all in. Thanks, Manny, for joining us.
Thanks, Connor. Appreciate it. Good luck.